What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Okay, so I've got a news article that we're going to go over today, but right quick before we do that, I came across a headline that I thought was very, very fascinating, and I wanted to talk about it right quick. It's kind of sci-fi, if you will. Check this out, y'all. Mind captioning. Brain tech translates what you're seeing and imaging into words. Okay, so, and the AI filters through all this nonsense. Imagine this world that we're getting ourselves into, folks. We have no idea the Pandora's box that we have opened with this AI nonsense. It could either destroy us or make our lives just a fantasy land, if you will, like this right here. Imagine going into, getting off from work or whatever, if we even have to do that anymore, getting off from work, going to your house and deciding, I don't feel like going out this afternoon. So you go and lay down in your bed and you put on this headset and you lay down, right? And it disconnects your motor functions so you can't walk or move or do anything, but in your mind, it generates these images as if it's real, and it creates this fantasy dream world that you feel like you're there. You feel like you're walking up to somebody. You're the superstar. You're the hero. You can generate your own Captain Marvel movie or whatever. You could be Captain Marvel if you would like. You could be whatever you wanted to be. You could be the evil villain or villainess or whatever, villainy. If you're a they or Z or something like that, you just never know. I mean, you could be the opposite sex. You can do anything. And, the AI translates this and, it's like sensory immersion right here. You feel everything. You could touch things. You're walking around. Imagine that, folks. That's where we're headed with this, is what it seems like. Virtual reality, except it's a lot more reality. Because, at that point, it's like, from the Matrix, if the stake only knew it was real type of thing. Once again, how are you going to be able to tell the difference? What is real and what is not real at that point? It's very, very fascinating where technology is getting us to, folks. And it's scary on one hand and just kind of awe-striking on the other hand, because you're like, hang on just a second. The AI and this technology can actually take what you're thinking in your head, mental images or whatever, and actually decipher that and put it into text, and it be very, very accurate. At least that's what I was reading from the news article there, that the vast majority of the amount of times it was completely 100% accurate in what it was interpreting from your thoughts, folks. Imagine the possibilities there. Right? Who needs to go and actually get out there in a spaceship and go explore the universe or whatever when we can just do it from the comfort of our bedroom where we know we're safe, right? That's kind of scary within itself, because hang on just a second. Aren't we like the pioneers or whatever? Or we've got exploration in our DNA and we want to get out there and go explore. What happened to that pioneering spirit of the human experience, right? Like, once again, I don't want to go lay in my bedroom and transport myself up to the Starship Enterprise and then go off to Vulcan or whatever and go explore their world, which that seems like within the next 5-10 years, maybe they just might be able to do these things. And what does that say about where our culture actually goes? Are we just going to stop innovating after that? Are we going to let the AI innovate everything? Where does our society lead after this, folks? It could be the death knell for our society. Although, once again, our AI overlords could, make our lives just the best. It could figure out, faster than light travel. You never know. I mean, we just don't know. AI can do so many things that the human experience, a human brain just can't do. We can't calculate several different things all at the same time. We cannot compile information from all across the web in an instant. We can't do that, but the AI can absolutely do that, but they can't do simple things as make a response that seems human. That's fascinating as well. You can always tell when it's AI talking, right? I mean, it's getting to the point they're getting pretty good at it, but you can still always tell there's it's just something with the enunciations and, you know, the inferences and everything in human speech that just makes it's just slightly off, right? Just slightly not there. But I think that's going to be quickly bugged out, if you will, right? Like all those little bugs or whatever, that's going to be just whisked away, if you will. I just found that very fascinating and kind of wanted to talk about it and kind of get you guys' input on that. See what you think about all this. Where is this technology going to bring us? Is it like the apocalypse? Or is it, you know, a fantasy land that we're going to get ourselves into, you know, the utopia of the future or whatever? Is it dystopia or utopia? You guys let me know down in the comments section. But I want to get back to it. The actual news and what's going on in actual reality, or at least what we can infer from what the corporate press is telling us. And what about the technology in the corporate press, right? Like, you know, the AI, that's something else, right? Quick, sorry for this, another aside. You know, the AI consumes everything that is put out into the ether or whatever, right? So what about all the fake news out there? What about all the manipulated news? What about all the manipulated stats and all this other stuff? The AI absorbs that as real. So hang on, how does it decipher reality from fake news? It's good. It's another good question for the comments section. You know, wisdom of the crowd type of thing. I would love to know, so you guys let me know down in the comments. All right, I'm always willing to admit I'm almost never the smartest guy in the room, except when I'm by myself. Feds expand terrorism charges in July shooting at Texas Immigration Detention Center. So this is great, folks. They are absolutely going after these people as hard as they possibly can. At least in my opinion, it's what it seems like to me. Right? This is the Alvarado, Texas. The shooting at the detention center where there was an assault by Antifa on this detention center. They pulled out a gun, shot a police officer right in the neck. Yeah, that whole situation, y'all. That's what's going on here. Let's get into this and see what's happening. Federal prosecutors in Texas have charged 6 more people with a new terrorism-related charge in the July shooting outside an immigration detention center near Dallas, and said 6 others are scheduled to enter guilty pleas in the case. That's fascinating right there. Like, you know, if you guys have ever talked to a lawyer about criminal charges, you know, or have like lawyer friends or anybody that's in the legal field, or especially the criminal justice field, you know, they'll always tell you never ever plead guilty. Never. Always go through trial. Always. That's why I don't ever understand why these people do this, right? Unless you know you're guilty, once again, then, you know, it might be a good idea to take a plea. So yeah, that kind of says it all right there, don't it? At least that's what I've always been told. If you think you're innocent, even if you don't think you're innocent and there's just not a very good case, always go to the trial. Always do a jury trial. Never do it by judge, right? A trial by judge or whatever. So that's what I've always been told. That's why I don't ever understand these people that claim to be innocent, but yet they take guilty pleas. That's fascinating. Very fascinating to me. But anyway, that aside, the latest indictment in the case issued Friday expands on previous charges and relies on President Trump's recent declaration that deems the decentralized movement known as Antifa a domestic terrorist organization. Trump blames Antifa for political violence. Now, what they're trying to do here is, once again, the left, or at least the Associated Press, is trying to minimize leftist violence as much as they possibly can, even outright admitting that it doesn't exist. They're saying it is, but it's only Donald Trump blames Antifa for political violence. Well, we've seen the videos, right? I just don't understand this reluctance on behalf of the corporate press to admit that the left is more violent than the right, right? Most conservatives, or at least I'll say conservatives, right? Because conservatives, generally speaking, are Christian-based. They have that Christian morality. We don't get out there and go protest and commit violence upon anybody, right? January 6th, that was a whole outlier. And there's a lot of questions about where that was incited, right? Like who was inciting all this. We know that the FBI was heavily embedded into that crowd. And yeah, we'll say it's not a good look for the people that got violent. But, you know, once again, that did not give the Department of Justice the justification to weaponize itself against the American people and go after peaceful protesters. But, you know, that aside, once again, I love it, y'all. Trump blames Antifa for political violence. Well, you know, when reality says otherwise. The case stems from the July 4th shooting outside the Prairieland Detention Center in Alvarado, southwest of Dallas, that injured a police officer. The charges also include rioting, attempted murder, and weapons and explosives charges. Prosecutors said that the group threw fireworks at the facility, vandalized vehicles, and then shot at responding police and correctional officers, striking an Alvarado officer in the neck. He was later released from the hospital. The shooting took place as President Trump's administration ramped up deportations. Once again, see what they're trying to do right there? They're trying to blame this violence on Donald Trump. Oh, this happened because Donald Trump ramped up deportation operations. That's what they're telling you without actually saying that blatantly and outright. So, once again, folks, these people are just utter scumbags with how they structure their news articles. You always got to watch these people that are always trying to manipulate something, because that right there, that's one of those covert manipulations, if you will, where they're not telling you something outright, but they're telling you something, right, that's kind of underneath the surface right there, where you think, well, look, all this violence, blah, 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 blah. Oh, well, it ramped up because Donald Trump. It's just ridiculous, y'all. Patrick McLean, a lawyer for defendant Zachary Evans, said he has seen no evidence to support the government's view of the case. He said his clients would again plead not guilty on December 3rd. At the December 3rd arraignment on the new charges. Mr. Everett has never been a member of anything like a North Texas Antifa cell, and from the evidence provided to us by the government so far, there is no evidence that such an organization even existed, McLean said Saturday. Short for anti-fascists, Antifa is not a single organization, but rather an umbrella term for far left-leaning militant groups that confront or resist neo-Nazis and white supremacists at demonstrations. You see how the manipulation just takes hold and just spreads? It just does, folks. Like, we know Antifa, these are the people that show up to protests to not only protect leftist protesters, but they go and agitate like Proud Boys and things like this, where, you know, the Proud Boys, they're not inherently racists. Sure, there might be some that are members, but once again, it's not their ethos to be racists or whatever. But they show up and they will agitate these people to goat them into committing violence against them, and then they will run off and leave, you know, pretty much the Proud Boys or whatever group, Oath Keepers, any of these right-wing conservative groups, leaving them holding the bag, essentially. We've heard that story before of, you know, the Proud Boys showing up to a demonstration or whatever, blah, 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 or show up to an event. I forget where the one specifically that I'm talking about was, but, you know, the Proud Boys were there. Antifa shows up, starts agitating the crowd, right, and agitating the Proud Boys. And they finally get tired of it because Antifa started throwing things at the Proud Boys and throwing fireworks into the crowd. So they get into a big old scuffle. The police show up. Antifa bail and run off. The Proud Boys, they turn to the police officer and say, here's my ID. This is exactly what happened. And what do the police do? They arrest the Proud Boys. Yes, some of them spent a couple of years in prison for that. Couple of years in prison for a scuffle, a fist fight. Yes. Of course, they should have known better. They were in occupied territory, as a matter of fact. You know, communist occupied territory. So, I forget exactly. It was somewhere up in the Pacific Northwest. But I forget if it was like Oregon or Washington or California. I forget, but somewhere up in that area. But anyway, that's what they do. They show up. They commit violence. We've seen nothing but violence coming from Antifa against ICE facilities. That has ramped up significantly since the Trump administration, right? Especially in like Chicago. We know Antifa exists all over the place. And Donald Trump, they are starting to go in, right? He designated them a terrorist organization, and now they're getting their ish together, if you will. They're starting to gather intelligence and all this against these people. So they're starting to go after these people, and this is a good thing, y'all. Maybe, just maybe, we can actually eliminate Antifa right off the freaking map. To me, that would be great. That would be just awesome. But, that's neither here nor there. At this point, that's for the future to determine. We will see what happens. Hopefully they can go in and do their thing. But I think I've rambled on for long enough. So you guys let me know what y'all think about all of this down in the comment section, from the, what I was talking about at the beginning to this, to anything else you want to discuss down in the comment section. Go ahead and leave your comment down there. You guys don't forget to smash that like button for me. Subscribe if you're new around here and you want more videos like this, where I expose the manipulation of the corporate press, because that's what I do. And share this video anywhere and all over the place, all at the same time, right? Anywhere and everywhere. That's the motto around here. And if you could, click that join button. Sign up and become a member. That's the best way to help this channel explode and expand and grow. Do all that good stuff, right? That's what we want. We want this channel to expand because we need to be informed of how we're being manipulated. Most people don't like being manipulated, so there you go. Yeah, you got to get that out of the way, right? But you guys remember that God has a plan for all of us. You may not understand or know what that plan is, but it's there, and He loves each and every one of you out there. So you guys try to have a good day. Stay legitical. Peace.